going over some EFT setup options. So we click on the Customer tab, and then we click on EFT Processing, and this is where you can set up some EFT setup options. So we'll click on EFT Setup, and it brings up this menu here. And the options we have here include outstanding account ledger in batch. That means if they owed you money from a previous batch and you make a new batch for the next month, if it will include that outstanding money they owed you or not. Below that, it'll check for prepayment if they have enough on their EFT ledger to prepay the membership. Do not allow prepayment on frozen memberships. If you want to make sure you try to bill that freeze due you have set up. Below that, you have if you're going to use the EFT ledger or both the EFT and the general ledger if you're checking for prepayment. Below that, if you do refreeze fees, this is going to decide where that refund, if you do refund the freeze fees, where that money will go to. If you have this checked, it'll go to the points ledger instead of just their account ledger. Include tax on freeze refund if you want to get if you charge tax and you want to refund that as well. This checkbox here you would use if you split your EFT batches. If you have multiple stores and you want to do a batch for each store instead of one large batch for all your stores put together, you would check that. And then after blank consecutive rejections, put membership on hold. Usually that's at 1, and you can allow them to tan if they're put on hold if you want to allow that. And then after how many consecutive rejections are you going to terminate it, so it will stop being pulled into the batches and whatnot. We'll put a 3 in there, and you just put your default day of payment here. And we can save this. And those are most of the options that you would need to go over. The proration tab, most of the time you don't need to edit anything here. It'll calculate your proration for you. This is where you could turn it on manual if you want to do it manually. Here it'll just reject invalid credit card numbers, or it can check for expired cards and add blank years to the expiration date to see if it was renewed. And just if you reject like invalid routing numbers, or some people have incorrect billing info. And here is resubmit options. And when you do a resubmit, are you only going to draft the original amount, or are you going to draft any rejection fees in that resubmit you do? Okay, and then the next button down here is draw days. This is where you set up what draw day you're going to use for your EFT batches. We'll set one up for the first here. And submit day is, if you read it right here, must purchase their membership before the 1st of the month, or their account will not be drawn until the following month. Cancel day is what day they need to cancel by for the change to take effect for the next month. If they're after this date, they will be billed next month, and then the date will just be pushed back to next month. They'll be canceled. Pretty much the same thing with freeze, if they need to give you a warning before you allow them to freeze their membership. So we've got that set up now. We can close that. And providers is where you set up who you're going to use for your provider. One of them that's integrated with Sunlink is SlimCD. The other one is Merchant Warehouse. We'll just choose one of those for now. And here's the DLLs you're going to use for SlimCD. We would just use the SlimCD one. And hit save. And then we go to deductions, and this is where you choose what payment types you're going to accept for EFTs. Now in our case, we'll just choose we're going to use SlimCD, and we're just going to set up the 4 major credit cards that we're going to accept: American Express, and we'll also set up that we accept Discover, and then we'll do Visa and MasterCard as well. So if someone's going to buy an EFT at our store, they'll need to get their billing info on file, and it's going to have to be one of these 4 types of credit cards is what they're going to need. And once we get that on file, it'll let us sell the EFT to them. And then this is the billing info we will use to bill their card every month. And then that's most of the setup you need to do on this page. The next thing you would do in here is actually create the batch. In our case, the 1st of the month, once we sell an EFT to someone, then they would show up in the batch, and you just hit create new batch. That'll pull everyone in who's going to be in the batch, and you're going to bill. And then you submit the batch. In our case, that would connect to SlimCD, and we could start the billing, and it would run down the people in the batch and tell us if they're approved or declined. And then the last step we would do in the batch process, we would post the open batch, and that would update Sunlink with the results. People who were rejected would be put on hold. and they would owe that money on their account ledger. People who are approved would be all set, their membership would be active, and their next draw day would just be moved to next month. Okay, that should be it for EFT Setup. Thanks for joining me.